Minerals and mental health. What do they have in common? Well, pretty much everything. So let's talk about that today on the Cultivating Calmness podcast. I'm glad you're here today. I've been talking about some of the journey that I've been taking with getting some of my own testing done and working through some of the things that I need to improve about my health. And in that process, I'm learning more that I didn't know before, and I'm still learning, and I'm not going to get it all correct. So I'm not talking in minute details today. But I do want to just bring some awareness to some of the things that may be going on in the background of your body and your mind when it comes to like your mental health. So when you're experiencing symptoms, let's just talk kind of basic, like anxiety and depression. If you're experiencing depression, some of the common things that you may have heard may be affecting your mental health. I know I've talked about this a lot. And when I worked in the hospital, these things were addressed on the inpatient level. But other than that, even these more common things that I talk about aren't really talked about as widely in the mental health field. So some things that commonly we know affect your mental health are things like your vitamin D levels, your B12 levels, your iron. So those are some common ones I think that I hear fairly often, just in what I do and how I look into things. And those are some things that are talked about more regularly in the mental health field. And even though they're talked about more regularly, they're not necessarily always very common with everyone. So just to kind of where we're starting from, those are some basics, some things that we know have an effect on mental health. And it's not just because those are important. I mean, they are, but everything in our body has a purpose and is connected to something else. So if we have low vitamin D, that also is attributed to magnesium and calcium, and everything has something that it goes with, and there's a reason and a purpose for that. So certain minerals help each other basically. And so if one's depleted, the other one's not going to function as well without the depleted one being, where it should be. And if that group isn't where it should be, then another group is also not going to be where it should be. And again, generalities here, but when we're talking about our minerals in our body, those are things that our body uses every single day and needs to function and survive. So what I've learned in my experience and through my testing is that even though I felt like I was doing the right things, and I know I didn't have the best diet, but I thought I was relatively okay. I could definitely be doing a lot better. And so I'm trying to do that on purpose now. And when we talk about, improving our minerals or even finding out where your minerals are, sometimes there's other tests that are also going to be necessary to find out why potentially your minerals aren't where they should be. And so for me, I also did a stool test. I did a hair mineral analysis and a stool test. And the stool test really shows what's going on in your gut. And so because of that, I also then learned that there, for lack of a better term, and I'm just going to kind of sum it all up, we just call it an infection, all right? There's an imbalance of certain things going on in my gut. And when you have that going on, in addition to your minerals being off and low and depleted, the issues going on in your gut could be causing the things going on, the low minerals, because let's say if you have parasites or you have candida or you have, bacteria, overgrowth, we should have a balance of good and bad bacteria. If we have bad bacteria overgrowth, or potentially even the good bacteria overgrowth, too much of it, that could be causing the food that you're eating to not be digested in the way that it should be. And then therefore the minerals that should be released from that food and then taken in by the cells in your body and, put wherever it needs to go, and used in the way it should be being used, those things won't happen if, say, those problems are taking the minerals for themselves. That makes sense. So, for example, I have what I found out was have candida in my gut system, and I suspected that was the case, but I didn't know. Now I know. And I suspected that I had low iron, and I had been, taking things that I thought were helpful for iron. And I now know I do have low iron. But when it comes to replenishing those minerals, knowing both of those things is going to help me to replenish what I need. And what I mean by that is that I learned, and I actually didn't know this, is that your like if you have something like candida, as well as many other things potentially, mold, I think, is another one. If you have a mold infection, and low iron, the reason you potentially have low iron could be because the iron feeds the candida, and the iron, feeds the mold. So like both of those things are eating the iron. So you could be taking the iron supplements and eating iron-rich foods, and because you have those infections or those things going on inside your body, they're like, ooh, iron, I want to take all of that. And they're going to use it for themselves, which is then going to cause those things to grow and get worse, in theory. I don't know that for certain, but based on what I've learned, right, that's kind of the idea there. And so you may continue to get tested and find like you're still low in iron, even though you're taking iron, because these other underlying issues are feeding off of the minerals that you're getting. Okay, so like, how do minerals play a part in your mental health? Well, it's not just the vitamin D and the B12 and the iron that I already mentioned. Those are important, and those are some minerals that you need. But I looked up some other ones, so I don't have these memorized, so I'm going to reference some of the notes that I have. But zinc is important for, it helps to convert, tryptophan into serotonin, which you need. So we talk about, getting like serotonin and getting that from food. Well, you also need zinc to help that to move into the serotonin that you need. So if you are low in zinc, well, you're going to have difficulty in getting your serotonin up in your body. And magnesium. I talk about magnesium all the time, but that's not necessarily a common thing that people know about when it comes to your minerals. So magnesium can, definitely helps with those calming the neurotransmitters, and like GABA is a neurotransmitter that we need and helps to calm and support different receptor functions in our body. Different types of magnesium, right, help you go to the bathroom, help you to calm your nervous system, etc. So magnesium is an important mineral that you need to have in your system. So you're not getting magnesium and you're stressed, well, you're probably depleted in magnesium. We already talked about iron, but that can help with dopamine and norepinephrine. Iron can help with dopamine and norepinephrine. And copper needs to be in balance with zinc. So if you are low in copper, which I found out I'm low in copper, but also low in zinc, those are also involved in neurotransmitters and metabolism and your like defense system in your body. And your B6, although that's like a vitamin, that depends on the magnesium to function and to work with all the other minerals in your body. Let's see here. So like magnesium helps with mood, sleep, energy production, and it helps with periods of high stress and trauma. I work with trauma, stress. So often if you have a lot of stress, your magnesium is probably depleted. It's using all of that to fight all of those defenses. And so like using things like magnesium lotion or, electrolytes, are you typically going to have some kind of magnesium in them. Those would be helpful for you. Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving you medical advice, But these are things for you to potentially look into, to talk to your doctor about these things, to see, can you get your minerals tested to see, are you low in these things? Are you depressed and anxious and maybe a slew of anything, other things that may be going on with you, and your minerals are depleted? Well, it's going to be hard to feel better if your minerals are tanked. That's just plain and simple. Okay. So hear me out when I talk about minerals. Like, this is why, we can't just, in my mind, like, I am doing the talk therapy. I'm not running the tests, but I am talking about these things. I want you to look into these things. I want you to talk to your doctor about these things, because those are going to have an effect on the way that you feel, period. The minerals that you have in your body have an effect on the way that you feel. If those are out of sync and out of whack and out of proportion, you are going to feel it. You just may not know that that's why you're feeling it. And then you go to your therapist or your psychiatrist, and we label it as depression or anxiety or bipolar disorder or PTSD, etc. It's not saying that there aren't reasons that you feel those things, from the external world. There probably are, but there's also internal things affecting the way that you feel and why you feel that way. And I want you to be able to try to address those as well. And I say this time and again, I say this to all my clients, we can talk and we can do the talk therapy and the EMDR. We can talk through all the traumas, all we want. But if all of this, inside your body is not in a state that is helping you to function, all the talk therapy in the world isn't going to make you feel better. It will help, but it's not going to make you feel better overall. So, iron, necessary for focus and energy and, cognitive performance. It can be linked to, poor concentration and mood disorders. Zinc helps regulates the brain's stress response and can be associated with increased anxiety, impulsivity, and depression. Selenium is an important mineral that we need. So if you are low in selenium, it helps with detoxification, your antioxidants in your body, and your immune system. So if you're fighting a cold, you need selenium as well. And that affects brain inflammation, which therefore affects your mood. If your brain is inflamed, you're going to experience some mood, issues and some fluctuations. Calcium, essential for your nerves as well as your neurotransmitter, communications and releasing. Manganese and copper are involved in the neurotransmitter recycling and antioxidant function, and as well as other things. So you think copper, I don't want to be, I don't want metal in my body. You actually do need copper in your body. There's lots of ways to get copper through your food. There's also copper drinks, cups and mugs and things like that, and you have to use them appropriately. You can also get too much copper. You can get too much of all of these things as well, and that can have its own effects. So having not enough or having too much can affect your mental health. So that's why getting tested will give you answers. So I was guessing. Right. I hadn't gotten the testing. I had my cupboard full of vitamins that I would take. And, I wasn't always the best at taking them regularly. And so that was a problem. I admit it. And when you're not taking them regularly, your body isn't getting what it needs regularly. So that's one thing. But if you're just taking things because you're like, oh, well, I have these symptoms, I Dr. Google, and I'm like, yeah, I probably have low iron, and I probably have low B12, and I probably have low this and low that, and I need to take these things. That's all well and good. But if you have something like I do, like candida, and it's eating up all the stuff you're giving it, you're really just going to have really expensive pee. Mm-hmm. So maybe you've heard that before, maybe you haven't. And it could also be causing damage in other areas. So I've said this before, calcium without, I think it's magnesium. You could just be, the calcium could be kind of placing itself in areas in your body where it's actually harmful to you and not helping you. So, right, we say, calcium makes strong bones. Well, if it's not also paired with the minerals it's supposed to be paired with, then it's not going to make it to your bones. It may make it to your arteries. And then you have, calcified areas in your body that should not be calcified because the mineral wasn't able to be transported where it needed to be because it lacked the other nutrients that went along with it. So you could have things happen like that. Like, I'm taking the calcium. My doctor says I need calcium, but did you also need magnesium or iron or zinc or other things that potentially would help to facilitate the inner workings of said calcium? Just as an example. So like, I could be taking all of these vitamins, but I may not be getting the benefit from the vitamins if my internal system isn't at the appropriate levels. And then there's what we call within normal range, or what's the word I'm thinking of? See, I can't think of the word. It's optimal, right? So you have what's normal, within normal range, and then there's what's optimal, basically what your body needs to really thrive and survive and thrive. So vitamin D is a common one, where the range is something like something stupid. It's like, and I could be getting the range wrong, but what falls within normal range would be something like 30 to 100 on the scale of 0 to 100. So if you fall within 30 to 100 and you get your vitamin D tested and the doctor comes back and is like, oh, well, your vitamin D is normal, but it fell at like 33%. Does that sound normal to you? In my training, in my research, you want to be up closer, way closer to that 100, between the 80 and the 100. So, even if you're at 50, 60, right? Like, you're doing better, but you're still not optimal. The vitamin D is not optimal in your system. You need more. So like, just because a provider tells you it's normal, I'd want to know, what is optimal? Okay, that's normal, but the range sometimes is a really large range. And if you're at the bottom of that range, is that a good thing? If you're at the very top of that range, is that a good thing? I don't know. Those are questions to ask your provider. If you don't feel like you're getting that from your provider, there are lots of other providers out there. Now, the downside is that oftentimes those other providers are more, can be more alternative, and therefore are unlikely or less likely to be covered by your insurance. So they are out of pocket. And so it can be an expensive process. If you're trying to do this for your whole family, for example, right, this may be something that is going to be costly. So believe me, I get it. I'm going through that right now as well. And it's not something that everybody's able to take part in all at once. And so you kind of pick and choose what you're able to do, focus on, and then you get those healthy habits and you get those things going and you try to keep that up. And then you can maybe shift into, somebody else getting that workup done and finding out what's going on so that you can continue to make those incremental progress with each person in, say, your family. If it's just you, right, picking and choosing which areas you want to focus on. And when it comes to testing, there's no one right answer for each person. I used to, I'm learning in this process as well. And I've considered lots of different routes to take, and there's still more testing that I could probably benefit from. But also, we want to start from the beginning. If I had only gotten like stool testing done, or if I'd gotten hormone testing done, that wouldn't tell me where my minerals are at. It wouldn't tell me why maybe my hormones are doing a certain thing. It would tell me some of that for sure, but it wouldn't be addressing the mineral deficiencies that I'm currently experiencing. So I'm having to, take certain supplements, eat certain foods, do certain things to help build up my minerals. And I've only been doing it, solidly now for, I think, less than a week. And I can already feel the difference in, what those changes have had on me. So I know that it's working, and I'm excited to see where it takes me. So all of this is to say that your minerals and your mental health go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. And so if you are seeing a provider and you are taking medication for your mental health, I would encourage you to talk to them about getting your minerals tested. I personally did a hair mineral analysis, took pieces of hair, cuts of hair from all over my scalp in different areas, and tested like an inch piece from like near my scalp till, an inch off. And that was able to tell for like the last 3 months where, my minerals were at. So, I'm not sure what other doctor's offices can do with that. If, they would do hair or blood or what. Blood is likely to tell you what's currently in your system versus hair, right? Because it's already grown out. It's going to tell you what's been there and potentially what was most recently there. So, is there one right answer? Not necessarily, but there are different tests that will tell us different things. So I encourage you to advocate for yourself. Talk to your providers about these things and see if you can get some mineral testing done to find out where your levels are. And then, you have a better answer as to maybe why you're feeling the way you're feeling and what maybe foods you need to be eating or supplements you need to be taking to start to feel better, not only physically, but emotionally. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you learned something. I know I'm always learning new things, even in my own process. That's why I thought I needed to jump in and do this. I encourage my clients to do these things. I'm finally doing it, and you can do it as well. If this sounds like something that would be interest to you, and you would like to work with someone like me, I am accepting new clients. I'd love to work with you as well. These are topics of discussion that I include in our therapy work, and I have a slew of referral partners that I can refer you to should you have an interest in that, or how you can talk to your doctor about getting these tests done if that is something that is the route that we need to take as well. So have a wonderful rest of your day, a wonderful rest of your week. Thank you for joining me. I will see you again next week.